Our next speaker on the CommuteCon stage is Alex Scarborough. Alex is joining us from Movability Austin, a TMA in Austin, Texas, of all places. Alex, excited to have you on the line here. Go ahead and get I think you've got a audio and camera, and you should have
Hi.
controls to be able to run the show. So the floor is yours.
All right, great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. You sound great.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be at CommuteCon this year. Again, my name is Alex Scarborough. I run the membership program and also act as a consultant at Movability. Let's see. Oh, there it goes. All right. So just a really quick overview of kind of who we are. We're a nonprofit transportation management association, the only one in Central Texas. Our focus is really on working with commuters and companies across the region to help them connect with options that really work for them. One of our roles in that is actually providing companies the tools that they need to successfully develop and implement mobility programs. So I'm going to be sharing one of those tools with you today. So today is February 7th. If anybody listening or watching still has a New Year's resolution, you are my hero. I'm very proud of you. We know that behavior change is hard, especially those of us who spend our days trying to help commuters change the way that they travel. It's an ingrained habit, and it's really tough to change. So today I'm just going to talk about one of the techniques that we at Movability use to make that change just a little bit easier. Motivational interviewing is a technique that we use primarily in one-on-one conversations with commuters, but it's also something that can be applied more broadly. The theory and spirit of it can be applied to program design, to communications and marketing. We can use it in a variety of different ways. As you can see from the definition here, it's not really about trying to get someone to do the right thing and change their behavior. It's more about understanding the person you're talking to, helping them find their own reasons for change, and then strengthen those reasons that they actually want to change, not just telling them that they should. So motivational interviewing is derived from the health sector. It's been around for many, many years. It's seen some really strong success in lifestyle changes, such as helping people get more active, eat healthier, even quitting smoking or dealing with drug and alcohol abuse. Luckily, a few years ago, some very smart people shifted to get it to start working with car addiction and trying to treat car addiction. See if my slide will change here. There we go. There are a lot of successful examples across the country of ways that this has been done, but I'm particularly excited about one here in Austin, Texas. The city of Austin and Capital Metro, which is our local transit authority, have partnered on a neighborhood program that uses motivational interviewing as well as individualized marketing and hands-on learning to really help Austinites change the way that they travel. You can see in some of these photos. And they've really had some positive results. In the 2016 program, they saw a 3.3% decrease in drive-alone mode share, almost a 6% increase in transit, and a 2.6% increase in walking. So we've really been excited about the success of that program. So we're going to dig into motivational interviewing here. I usually teach this as a 2-day course, 2 full days, to help people become really knowledgeable and confident practitioners. Matt told me to keep it to 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to be quick here. Obviously, as you can see on the slide, there are a lot of different aspects and things to learn about motivational interviewing, but I've just picked out a couple that I think will really help you understand the tool and actually give you a technique that you can walk away and start practicing today with your commuters. So we're going to talk today about cycle of change and reflections specifically. So when people are looking at behavior change, they often start by asking, why don't people change, right? Maybe it's because they don't see, they're in denial. If you can give them insight, then they will change. Maybe they don't know, just give them the knowledge. Surely if they just know enough, then they'll change their behavior. Maybe they don't know how. This one's really common. Just give them the skills. If they know how to do it, they'll change. Well, maybe they just don't care. So we want to try to make them concerned. If they feel bad or afraid enough, then they'll change. We feel like this really neglects the reality that the way people travel is a deeply ingrained habit and something that often people haven't thought about in years, if at all. So in order to change their behavior, what you really need to do is appeal to their emotions and their motivations for change, working through and acknowledging the ambivalence they may have, and helping them to ensure a long-term commitment. So when we're changing behavior, we all move through different cycles on the behavior change circle that we have here. Sometimes we go through this up to 4 times before actually changing our behavior for good. So when people start out, they're in the pre-contemplation phase. They are actually not even on the cycle. They're not considering a change. They're probably happy with their car use. They drive everywhere really without thinking about it. Once they're in contemplation, they've started to think about the change. They're usually finding some excuses, reasons it may not work. I suppose I could walk to work, but I don't know how I'll carry all of my things in my briefcase, and I go to the gym straight afterwards. Once they move into preparation, they're seriously thinking about the change. They started to plan for it. They're working out alternatives, doing some troubleshooting. And then action. They actually do it. They try it for the first time, walking to work. And then maintenance is when it's sustained. They've been doing it multiple times. Still not an ingrained habit, but it's getting closer to that. And then termination is actually coming off of the cycle. The behavior becomes habitual. Many people actually relapse several times and go back through the cycle or kind of move across the cycle before they actually get to that new behavior. Now, the key thing to take away here is that when you start a conversation with someone, your job is to figure out where they are on this cycle, or if they're on the cycle at all, and then adapt your approach to them accordingly. One of the key things also is that you need to be realistic. Somebody who's never thought about using any other mode, as you probably know, is pretty unlikely to start taking the bus the very next day. So sometimes we need to acknowledge that just moving someone from one phase of the cycle to another is a huge success. Even if it's just from pre-contemplation into contemplation, that's actually a pretty significant step. So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you all about is reflective listening. So we're going from way up at the high level, zooming into a really specific technique for y'all to start practicing. So when we're having a conversation, sometimes it can feel like we are talking past people. What we're saying and what they're understanding us saying can be very different. Listening seems like an easy skill that everybody knows, but good listening is actually something that most of us have to learn and practice at. When we're talking to someone about changing their commute, often we find that we're sitting there coming up with rebuttals to their excuses, or we're trying to, figure out all the transit routes in our heads that they could be using, instead of actually listening to them and trying to understand what they want to do. Motivational interviewing tells us that that's where we need to start, with understanding someone. And then we can actually do a better job of helping them with longer lasting results. Our first impulse when we're trying to help people change is to ask questions. We want to understand what's going on. It's certainly a place to start, but often it doesn't really deepen our understanding and can make people feel like we're not actually hearing them. Sometimes it feels more like the Inquisition, as we're jumping, trying to probe from every angle. Well, what about the bus? What about walking? What about biking? And that really doesn't move the conversation forward very well. A reflection, on the other hand, it's a short summary of what the traveler has said with a neutral inflection. It's a statement, it's not a question, and it actually does invite elaboration. You just have to allow for the silence for them to respond. It also shows that you're listening and allows you to ensure that you're actually on the same page with the person you're talking to. So just a quick example here. The person you're talking with says, "I'd like to cycle to work, but it's not safe." The simplest reflection is just repeating it back to them. So you'd like to cycle to work, but feel it's not safe to do so. Now, you may feel awkward doing this at first, just repeating back exactly what they said, but actually in conversation, it doesn't usually come off as a weird thing to do. And they may actually respond with, "Yes, that's right. And here's the specific example of when that happened," something that then you can actually help them troubleshoot or learn more about. You're getting more helpful information. Some other ways to reflect are kind of taking what they're saying and tweaking it a little bit. So one example, so you don't want to cycle to work because you're worried that you may have an accident on your bike. In which case they may say, "Yes, that's right." Or they may say, "Well, that's not exactly what I'm worried about." And then again, you're getting more to the heart of their hesitation about biking. Another example, when we're looking more at ambivalence, on the one hand, you would like to cycle to work, but on the other hand, you feel it is unsafe to do so. So that's really pointing out to them that they do have those conflicting feelings that they may not have explored or acknowledged, but it's actually key in behavior change. Now, if you had followed this, I would like to cycle to work, but it's not safe, with a question like, well, what about carpooling? You might miss some crucial information or even risk having that person shut down entirely because they feel like you're trying to convince them. I know here in Texas, if somebody feels like you're telling them what to do, that's the end of the conversation. So we really try to avoid that. So here's a couple more examples. You may want to write this down. This is just a good way to start practicing those reflections, is having these in your back pocket. You can start it with, it sounds like you, it seems like, you feel, so you think that, you mean that you, so you. Again, it's all about that person trying to understand and reflect what they've said so that they can give you more information, correct you, really move the conversation along in the way that they want to. So now you all want to be motivational interview practitioners, right? I hope so. The good news is that we do host this 2-day training at least once a year here at Movability in beautiful Austin, Texas. So if you need an excuse to come visit us, see if this might be in your budget for 2018, go ahead and text the keyword to the number on the screen if you do want to sign up for updates, or you can go to our website and sign up for our newsletter that way, and we'll let you know as soon as we've scheduled our next training. And here is my contact info. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want more information. And if we have a couple minutes, I'm happy to take some questions now.
Great. Thanks so much. Very exciting topic. Obviously, behavior change is something near and dear to many of our hearts because that's a large part of what commuter management and TDM are about. I do have a question. A lot of our, I'm guessing that for a lot of our folks, the one-on-one nature of this sort of interviewing technique might seem a little daunting because so often we're working with very large populations. Are there any aspects of this sort of motivational interviewing that could be translated to larger group interactions, perhaps, or what experiences do you have doing this where it's not just a one-on-one setting?
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody on our staff is trained in motivational interviewing, even the folks who don't work directly with commuters, because that's where we start when we're working with the company in designing their program. So we're thinking about how do we move people, whether it's through those conversations or through the emails that we send out or just the way that we're designing the incentives, how do we move them from one cycle of behavior change to the next? So we're thinking about that aspect of it. And we're also thinking about appealing to those internal motivations and recognizing that people may have very different motivations. So we don't go in assuming I know what you want to do or why you want to do it, but we try to get that information from our audience. Oh, I think you might be muted, Matt.
Good catch. Thanks. Well, it's been wonderful having you with us today. It's, again, a super relevant topic for so many of us, and we hope to keep you as part of the CommuteCon family in future years. So enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you get to stick around and hear what all the other great presenters have to say.
Great. Thanks, Matt.